Good evening, everyone. I am your host, Ben Oppenheimer, also known as the voice of the people. Sorry, people. As we begin our special Wednesday night edition of One-on-One, I'm with Madi Dembele. We came up in the trenches together.
Yes, we did.
We grinded together. I feel like we were on the front lines in the Western Front. And it's great to be with you, Madi.
My guy.
And, of course, how can we forget Evan right next to me? You're my right-hand guy, literally. My right hand is pointing over to you.
Oh, yeah.
And it's so great to be with you guys tonight. And, Wednesday nights are always funky. That's what people have been saying. Actually, I'm not sure if anyone's been saying that, but I just came up with that on the fly. And I'm excited to talk about some basketball, some baseball, some football tonight. How about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, my first ever one-on-one nightly. I feel like it couldn't be a better time to do it. Like you said, so many sports to talk about. We got the NHL, NBA starting up, getting into the depth of college football, NFL, baseball coming into a close with the playoffs. A great time to be on one-on-one nightly.
Yeah, it's my second show for today. If you haven't checked it out, go check out our Pound for Pound podcast. Not don't mean to plug it, but I'm just running on fumes. Not a huge coffee guy, but we're here. We're talking sports. It's always a good time. Let's get rolling, boys. Let's do it.
Absolutely, and we've got Lou as the guy in the chair for the evening. And we really appreciate his help for tonight. And, of course, how can we forget Julia Moss, the student manager who is helping fill in for video producing, and she'll be coming in for the New York Liberty segment. And that'll be exciting to talk about because they're the only New York team that's, worth talking about right now. At least not yet. The Knicks and the Nets, we'll see what happens. And I'm excited for them, but right now the Liberty is, the talk of the town. So we'll be talking about that. And of course, how could I forget? Bobby Chaffardini is the reason all of this is possible. The man behind the scenes, pulling the strings. And so, Bobby, we appreciate you for making this all happen. And of course, so we'll also be discussing MLB Postseason, NBA predictions, Jets and Giants, and I'm just excited to just get it through with you guys tonight, and vent our frustrations, everything, just lay it all on the table, and I'm excited, or not excited, I'm interested to hear Evan's ventings about the New York Giants.
That I'm ready for.
And
I think frustration was the perfect word to use about my opinion on the Giants right now.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the Giants are just like, they're like that friend that, they're pretending they're fine, but really it's like, every day is just getting worse for them. And, you want to do something, but, after a while you can only say so much to get help. And the Giants need a football therapist right now. That's what I would say. They need a football version of a therapist, particularly Daniel Jones.
Oh, my God.
And all the other headaches that they're dealing with, And it's just, it's a whole conundrum that we're facing in New York football.
Potentially might be the worst team in football. I don't know how you guys feel about it. Yes, we're all getting nods. 1-4 as of the moment. We off camera, we were talking about Evan Neal and his comments. We're gonna get into that, but
no relation to this Evan.
No relation to this Evan.
No
Let's
relation.
make that clear. Not a Giants fan. Got to tell you the truth. Steelers fan. I don't know how that works out, but the Giants hold a special place in my heart. I'm a New Yorker for Christ's sakes. You gotta believe a little, and this one hurts. It hurts a little bit. It does. I got to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I mean, I want to add that I mentioned earlier before the show that I found a trend that people are fans of teams outside of their hometown for the NFL especially. It's like I'll walk into someone from Long Island and they're like, "Oh, I'm a Cowboys fan." And it's like, what? What? Like, it's like that's against the rules. Now, I'm very observant of rules when it comes to, sports and being a fan of teams from your town. And I think you're angering the sports gods when you do that. it's like a curse is going to be thrown upon you. Not
This is
you.
directed
Madi, of
at
course.
you, Madi.
Yeah.
This is directed at Madi Dembele. Yeah, I'm all messed up. I'm a Thunder fan. I'm a Steelers fan. I do have my Yankees, though. But still, I'm in purgatory with the sports gods. I'm on my last strike.
Well, you're in double purgatory because you chose the Yankees as your New York team. So,
Oh, Mets guy.
we're not off to a great start so far, Madi.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ben.
But
Wow.
no, it's all right. We did come up through the trenches together.
Of course, I always love you.
Yeah, absolutely. But I'll tell you what, I'm excited to talk about the Knicks and the Nets in terms of what we're going to see from them. And right now, the Liberty is obviously the focus. Not to take away from them, but I feel like the Knicks could be cooking up something special, even with this Bucks trade for Dame. I still think the Knicks run the East. I say that unapologetically, and I might be. I might get castrated for that opinion.
You should.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So we'll talk about it. We'll hash it out. But the Nets also. I think the Nets are going to be better than people think they're going to be.
Yeah.
And I think what's common actually with a lot of Nets teams is they'll have that whole time where they get all the superstars. In 2013, it was Paul Pierce and KG and all those guys, Joe Johnson, and that fell apart quickly, and that was an aging core.
Yeah.
And it was a long rebuild, and then they got into 2019, 2020. They got KD and Kyrie. That whole thing blew up, and now they're back to kind of where they were. It's like that development, no-pressure era, but not a tanking era either.
Yeah.
Right?
No, that team was like a purgatory. What I will say about the Brooklyn Nets is this. They're in a sweet spot. Don't go mess it up again and try to get stars. This is a fun team that they have. Mikal Bridges is going to put on a show at Barclays. Dorian Finney-Smith, where you were able to get from Dallas. They got a lot of guys. And if Ben Simmons, like we said off camera, if he's able to return to form, be one of the best perimeter defenders, and he's averaging closer to a triple-double if he's able to get back to that form, then Brooklyn, you have something special. From there, you can make moves, the right moves, to really build a contender in the city of New York, who has been dying for a championship since 1973, man.
Well, it's technically the borough of Brooklyn.
The borough of Brooklyn.
I don't know. I still feel like they have that New Jersey, that
really
stink of
I
New
think they do,
Jersey.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
They still
See,
got
yeah.
that stench on them.
Yeah,
They're outsiders.
Fair.
Yeah.
To us real Knicks fans.
yeah,
Orange
Yeah.
and blue skies for the New York Knicks. Fine.
yeah, absolutely. But we've got right now the focus is the better team in Barclays Center, and we're going to talk about that more in the next segment in depth. But it was kind of a rough first game for them in Game 1 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about what they got to do to adjust. Because whenever you run into problems in life, if you don't adjust, you're just going to run into more problems, and then you're just going to be in a heap of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's hopefully for Liberty fans and their organization, that's not what they want to happen after this spectacular season for them, right?
Yeah, not at all. Not at all. I've been the guy that's been coming on this podcast. I think Julia Moss, she's going to join us for the segment. I think she could attest to this. I said they could be the next great NBA franchise. Like when the WNBA first came around, like the Houston Comets with Cynthia Cooper and those cats, I was like, they could be like that. I still have faith in this team. I really, really love this team. Courtney Vanderstoot, Jonquel Jones, Benijah Laney doesn't get enough love. And, of course, the big two of Breonna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu. I'm in love with those guys. Game 1, yeah, we'll get into that. But I'm New York Liberty all the way. And I say that with the biggest smile on my face.
Yeah, they got a really stacked roster
Really
over there,
stacked.
the Liberty. It would be really cool for one team in New York to be at least good.
Yeah.
So they are good. Hopefully they can bring home a championship. That would be awesome
Some
for
hardware.
a morning city in
Yeah.
sports right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in full agreement with you guys. So when we come back, we are going to talk about New York Liberty and go in depth about their first game and what they need to do to adjust and what went wrong for them, particularly in that second half. And for all those listening, thank you for tuning in. We are on One-on-One Nightly, and we will be right back in 2 minutes.
What's going on, guys? I'm Jack Warner, one of your New York Rangers beat reporters for the 2023-2024 NHL season. I'll have you covered all season long as New York looks to bring a Stanley Cup back to the Big Apple in Peter Laviolette's first season as head coach. Follow me on Twitter at Jack_Warner23 for live game updates, post-game media availability, and all things Blue Shirts.
Well, guys, I feel like it's been way too long since I've been behind the mic in Studio 3 at the basement of Keating Hall, but I'm pumped to be here, and I'm even more pumped to be talking about the New York Liberty with you guys. Well, I'm pumped to be talking Liberty, but not pumped to be talking about the subject of the Liberty that we'll be talking about today, because, man, let's get right into it. Game 1 was a travesty. It was unfortunate. It was heartbreaking. Did I watch it live? No, because I was working. Was I checking the score constantly? Yes. I see the halftime score. I'm thrilled. 3-point lead. And then I'm like, okay, this is going to go down to the wire. Let me not check it until halfway through the fourth quarter. I look at the score halfway through the fourth quarter, and I'm floored. The Aces destroyed New York in the second half. Absolutely imploded. And before I give my opinions, I want to hear what you guys have to say. I mean, we can talk all we want about that first half. The Liberty looked good, this, and that. But what people care about and what the Liberty care about is their showing in the second half. So what do you guys think about that second half in particularly needs to change desperately going into the second game?
Well, I was watching that game because, again, I'm so high on the Liberty. What it was a complete defensive breakdown. Let me take you through midway through the third quarter. That was the point that you made. The New York guards went for 10 points, 3 of 11 from the field. You want to know what the Aces guards went? 34 points, 12 of 26, almost 50% with 34 points. On the other side, defensive breakdown. Everything went for the Aces. Elbow touches for Aja Wilson, where she was sizing up and jab stepping her man and is shooting mid ranges. The pick and roll was working late. Chelsea Gray, I don't think she gets even enough credit as she already does. Like, I know Kelsey Plum was the leading scorer, but Chelsea Gray, 20 points. She's hitting key passes. She stepped over half court to my ever-loving forgetfulness. She steps over half court and she launches like a 15-foot pass that's just on the money for 2 points. She was just killing them late in the game. And straight up, they just look like the better basketball team. They just look like the better basketball team towards the end. And I'll say this about the New York Liberty. Earlier on in the first half, they were in it. Yep. They were in it, and all of their starters were net negatives. Meaning, with them on the floor, they're losing the game by however many points, net negative 12, net negative 19. I still believe in this Liberty team because they weren't in their element. The Vegas Aces did not beat them in their element. But for a first game, I mean, you couldn't ask for a worse start to a series, a championship series.
Well, I think, they say life is a game of halves. Half glass full.
Is that what they say?
No, I just made it up, to be
I've
honest.
heard it before.
I don't think I've heard half glass full. I don't know if I've heard life is a game, life is halves.
Maybe I'm imagining stuff.
It's just a Ben Oppenheimer special. It wasn't something before, but it sure is now.
Yeah.
And that's what we should focus on.
Yeah, it's a Benfamism. It's like a euphemism, except it's a
That's
Benfamism.
incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right off the dome. That's incredible.
But look, it's, Julia, you said it was a disaster, a travesty, this game one. I think it's half a disaster.
Well, that's the final score.
First half, leading 49-46. Mm-hmm. This is very common in basketball where you'll have a strong first half or a strong second half that doesn't make up for the other half. Mm-hmm. And so, getting outscored 53-33 in the second half, that's rough for the Liberty. And then you got Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young. They each had 26 points. And so particularly it's like, if I'm the Liberty right now, if I want to make some adjustments, you got to fix the perimeter problem.
Yeah.
And you have to, for game 2, make sure the aces are not getting their shots, and shooting 40% from 3.
Oh my goodness.
Because that's a recipe to lose. And 54% overall. So it's, whenever you see games that have high scoring, or should I say field goal percentage that are high in that volume, you better be scoring as much as the other team. But they were not. It was the Aces defense was also on point in game 1. So that's just, I think that when you have a barrage of 3-pointers like that, that's what really, can change a game in an instant. It can change the momentum of a game. It's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy. It's almost like, when they say, like, whenever you're in a studio in a radio station, don't bring food into the station. And for basketball, it's like, don't bring threes, because when someone brings in threes, everyone's going to start hitting threes, or everyone's going to start missing threes, and it's going to be a whole mess of a game.
And here's my thing. This is what I don't understand about the way this game played out. Why are the Liberty living and dying by the 3-point ball when you have 2 MVPs in the post in Jonquel Jones and Breanna Stewart? If the threes aren't hitting, it's not like you don't have a very deep team, specifically in the post. You have 2 MVPs there who can not only defend well on the interior, but score well on the interior. You saw Jonquel Jones light it up in the first part of this playoffs. And Benai Jelani also, not necessarily a point player, but can also get in the paint and score there. You have too much talent to be shooting 9 for 29 from 3 and 5 for 22 if your name is not Marine Johannes.
You know why? I actually have a remedy for that, because they were playing the Aces game. The Aces, Kelsey Plum, she could light it up. Chelsea Gray could also light it up. Let me throw you out a stat. This is how you know they weren't in their element. Sabrina Ionescu, ever heard of her? I think we have. Familiar with
yes.
her?
I'm familiar with her
You're
game.
familiar, Julia?
Yes.
I think you should meet her. She'll like you a lot. 7 points. I have it right here.
She only shot 7 times.
Only shot 7 times. Well, 7 points at the end of the day. Minus 19 on the court. Kelsey Plum, 26, plus 21 on the court. Like, these guys were not themselves straight up. Even with the defensive breakdown, it's like, I'm high on this team. I love them. But you can't come this way against the Las Vegas Aces, who are looking to go back to back. You gotta come more harder than that, Liberty, straight up.
And do you guys think that that fault of the Liberty relying too much on the 3, do you think that's just the players' fault, or do you think that's a strategy issue with Sandy Brondello, her coaching? Do you think? What do you think?
I don't think it really matters, to be honest. Like, what happened. What matters now is that Sandy Brondello recognizes that, and she did. She said, they caught us on an off day. Our guards didn't play very well, but that won't happen twice.
It won't.
And we'll find out in about 43 minutes if that's going to hold up, because, man, they're going to need all 5 starters. And the other thing is that they're such a deep team, and the Aces are the opposite of that. They have no depth whatsoever. They only play 6 players. Yeah. That's it. Use that to your advantage as well, because if you tire out Asia Wilson, or honestly, if you get anyone on the court in foul trouble, they have no one to turn to. No one with as much skill as a starting 5. You got a starting 5 full of all-stars, which is why they don't need depth. But there's ways to work that into your favor that I don't think the Liberty have focused in enough. You look at the regular season, they've blown out the Aces more than one time. And it's just like, just get back to that.
If I'm not mistaken, they actually lead the regular season series against the Aces, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I'm imagining.
God, they played each other like 200 times. Yes. But yeah.
I think, so it's like, this is not an unwinnable. I know the Las Vegas Aces are like the big bad. They're the next great dynasty.
But the Liberty have proven to be the better team in the regular season.
Better team. They just caught them on an off game. But this is the thing about the Aces. Don't let them get confidence. Don't go into this game in about 40 minutes and give them another shot where they're up and they're already up a game and they're up by halftime where they feel confident, because they will end it. Don't let them put their foot on their neck. I really believe in this team. This is a really deep team. The Liberty run more than a 6-man rotation. I want to say off the top of my head, maybe an 8. They're closer to like an 8.
They'll play Marine. They'll play Steph. They didn't play Steph last game, but they usually will work in Steph Dolson, Marine Johannes, Kayla Thornton.
it's really about adjustments. Basketball's all about adjustments. Their thing with the 3-point line, that's just basketball. You see it in the NBA, teams are taking more threes. You live by the three, you die by the three. But I think their coach is brilliant enough to recognize that and just stick to what works. These guys will come back. Just stick to what works. Don't take yourself out of your own element.
Yeah, I think on the bright side, and this is in the larger picture, I think Liberty fans and even the players, even though they have to take this series completely seriously because it's the WNBA Finals, obviously, but think about how far this organization has come since 2020, since going 2-20, and then going 12-20 in 2021, and then in the 2022 season going 16-20, and going from being horrible to being mediocre and just barely sneaking into the playoffs. Like, don't you think that's something to be proud of even if
no one is saying that they're not happy about this Liberty team. I mean, everyone,
I'm
New
ecstatic.
York fans are ecstatic.
Yeah.
You say, like, let's look at 2020 versus now. Let's look at last season versus now. I mean, the whole roster is different. That's what happens when you build a super team in one off season. This was a completely manufactured team, and I have conflicting views on that. I like it now because I like the Liberty, but overall, like when teams build super teams, I'm not always super into the idea, but right now I love it all day, every day. Get my team to the finals because I've never seen because I'm from Tennessee, so I'm a Grizzlies fan, I'm a Titans fan, and I'm a Liberty fan. I have never seen my team in my lifetime win anything. The only thing is the U.S. women's national team winning the World Cup, but at the end of the day, does that count? Because that's the whole country. Like, everyone gets to celebrate that. I want to experience my team, a team that not a lot of other people root for. I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy as a sports fan. And I'm sorry that we derailed this a little bit, but I had to get it off my chest. I'm 22. I've never seen my team win a championship in any sport or even, honestly, get very close. You look at the Grizzlies made the Western Conference Finals in, like, 2013.
Yeah.
But
Zach Randolph.
Grit and grind era. Anyways, but bringing it back to the Liberty, it is so obtainable, too. Like, I know they got blown out in the first game, but this Liberty team is so good.
So good.
And I am excited about the game tonight. I hope I don't. This is a game where, because like Lou in the back, radio producer, asked me, how worried I am about this game or the series because of how they played in game one, and I told him tonight's game will determine my level of worry.
I think they win. I can tell you right now, I don't see the Liberty losing 2 games.
If they can steal a game in Vegas, I go from hitting the panic button to like throwing it in the desert.
We're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that just defenses, as they say, as you said, Madi, as everyone has said, defense wins championships. Throughout the regular season, the Liberty's defense really improved throughout the season. So just get back to what was going on during that time and just try to lock down. And I think they can win this series because plenty of teams go down 1-0 when they're away. I mean, plenty of teams go down 2-0 and they still win. I mean, look at so many upsets that have gone to 7 games.
Well, the WNBA only goes best of 3, so it is a little more
best of 3 against this Aces team.
Well, not best of 3, but best 2-3, best of 5. I don't even know 5.
Yeah, best of against this Aces team. That's the part that's most important.
But another Benfamism. Numbers do not matter. It's the heart that matters.
Okay.
So
what about the final score?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe that matters.
I think that matters a little bit more than your heart.
No, that's right. But yeah, I think that they just got to readjust, and I have faith that Brondello is going to readjust properly, and I think they're going to win in Game 2 tonight. I think it's I think it could be close. It could be a nail biter, but I think when you make those adjustments, usually if it's good coaching, you see a difference. Mm-hmm. You see a noticeable difference, and I think Brondello is what she's done this season. I think she's a great coach, so I think they should be prepared. Julia, I also want to add, you mentioned that this wasn't exactly a homegrown team. It was kind of artificially constructed, super team kind of way.
Yep.
But do you not consider UNESCO homegrown as she was drafted?
Well, that's one player.
Right, but pretty major player,
Well, I mean, I agree. I think she is definitely I mean, she was drafted to the Liberty, brought up through the Liberty. She's definitely a homegrown player, but when there's 3 other starters that you just signed through free agency and they're all 3 superstars, then perhaps you are artificially manufacturing a super team. But I mean, as great as it is to have Sabrina Ionescu, I mean, it's unheard of to in one offseason to completely overhaul your starting 5. 3 out of 5 is just about as close as we've seen.
Yeah. Like I'm thinking of like the Boston Celtics in the NBA. They go from like a 16-win team to a 66-win team. But regardless if it's artificial or if it's homegrown, it's a super team and it's done the right way. That's exactly how. Like New York Knicks fans, I bet you are like crying for like, yes, this is how you create. This is how you get a team together. So the Liberty done it the right way, and now they're in the finals again. They just lost the game. I believe they're gonna win game 2, and they're on the precipice of a championship. Homegrown, artificial, I don't care. They got it done.
Me, when I had to like delete all my anti-Lakers LeBron James tweets when the Liberty did it, I was like, this is a disgrace to the NBA. But when the Liberty did it, I'm like, yes, go Liberty, let's win a championship. But
let's do it.
But game 2 will tip off in just about 35 minutes. It's great not being able to have to say, like, if you're listening on the radio tonight, that's the pleasures of nightly. But game will tip off in about 35 minutes. I know we're all rooting for the Liberty, the local New York team. But that's going to do it for this New York Liberty segment. I'm going to head back to the video producing booth. When you guys come back, we'll be talking some MLB headlines. Definitely want to stick around for that. We'll be back with more one-on-one nightly. What's up, everyone? I'm Julia Moss, one of the hosts of WFUV's women's sports podcast, All In. Join us each week as we break down everything from the WNBA, women's collegiate sports, the NWSL, and so much more. We're also joined by recurring hosts including Madi Dembele, Taylor Masetta, Sam Bohr, and Annabelle Watson. All In is a production of WFUV Sports.
We are back here on WFUV Sports Nightly edition of One on One. I am Ben Oppenheimer with my hosts Madi Dembele and Evan Harkin. So guys, it's been a chaotic and exciting week for the MLBs. We're now really getting in, what I would say, into the heat of the postseason. And we've got some significant upsets happening in the division series that have been played so far. So Evan, tell us what's going on.
Well, first starting with the Diamondbacks, I mean, the question going into this series was, can the Diamondbacks beat the Dodgers? And the question has now shifted to, can they sweep the Dodgers? I mean, the Diamondbacks are a very good baseball team. I know you, Ben, said that you thought they were your dark horse pick. Yeah. I think it's a great pick. Yeah. I mean, they seem so hungry down there. They're a hungry team. They got it done in all phases in the first 2 games, played really good defense, scored 11 runs in one of the games, held the Dodgers to only 2 runs in both of the games. And, I mean, if you're the Dodgers right now, Lance Lynn is not the guy you want on the mound. Was one of the worst starters in baseball this season for a majority of the year. He's not the guy you want to hang your season up and say, go out there and win us a game we have to win. But if you're on the other side of that, Brandon Pfaff is not a guy that the Diamondbacks want out there, and he's definitely not Merrill Kelly. He's definitely not Zach Allen. So I think the Dodgers won't get swept because they aren't facing the elite pitching they have, and they have the bats to win a game. I think they win this game, but I don't think they end up beating the Diamondbacks. I think the Diamondbacks take the series in the end. What do you guys think?
Can I jump in here? I mean, I got to tell you, the Dodgers are just perpetual chokers. Like, this 100-win season, like, it didn't surprise them. It's almost like my Yankee.
Yeah, they're the Cowboys. They're the Cowboys of the MLB.
Almost the same way. Like, great in the regular season, and then come postseason, they fall apart. Like, almost instantaneously. Like, pray for Mookie Betts. I mean, he's a generational talent. Come to the Yankees. He's a generational talent on like a team that's going nowhere. It's going to be like this for years. Kershaw has been like, he's declined some. I don't know if you guys share the same opinion, but the Diamondbacks lost 4 of their final regular season games. The last 4 of their final regular season games. So this is a wild card team coming in and just clubbing out the Dodgers, which I know at this point it's nothing to like ride home. It's the Dodgers. They're gonna choke, but yeah, kudos to them. And I actually have them again as a dark horse. They're like my 3rd team because I really think it's gonna be Rangers, Phillies. I think, but I think. I think these guys can make some noise. I genuinely do think the D-backs are there. They're there and they're real.
Yeah, I think, you know what, guys? I'm just going to go out and say it. I think the Diamondbacks are going to win tonight and they're going to sweep. And some of you may call me a madman. In the words of Thanos from Infinity War, they called me a madman when I predicted that the Diamondbacks would win this series.
Yeah.
And I was called a madman by someone at this station, someone who I hosted with on Saturday's edition of One on One. And his name rhymes with Ballin, or actually not really. Name rhymes with Stalin. All right, I'll go and say Colin Lochran. I'm not saying, you're one of those guys, Colin. I'm just saying that, you called me a madman. And if you're listening right now,
told you so.
Yes, I told you so. And so this is a young upstart Arizona team, and this is like a classic David and Goliath story, going up against the big bad Dodgers. And I just love it seeing how they're playing, and especially that game 1 was just crazy, electric.
Yeah.
And what I also think it shows is, and I was also called insane for this, is I said that Kershaw is, he belongs in a nursing home, which I think he does after game 1. And, his bark is also worse than his bite. I mean, look at his runs per 9 innings, postseason versus regular season. He has a 4.49 postseason ERA compared to a 2.48 regular season ERA. So that's really not good. He does not do well in the postseason. I remember that when the Mets were playing the Dodgers in the 2015 NLDS, and, I was scared because we just, we had the Cespedes run that got us into the playoffs, and I'm thinking we're not going to be able to beat these guys. And then Kershaw and Greinke struggled that series, and it showed me that Kershaw really does not perform well in the postseason. And sadly, he's a regular season guy. And that's why I say his bark is worse than his bite, because it'll be like all the commentators will be like, you're going up against Clayton Kershaw game 1. It's like, what's your strategy? Like they'll ask the opposing players about that. And it's like, it really ends up not even being that big of a deal,
What I will tell you about this Dodgers team is be careful. Just like Evan said, they may not, depending on how tonight goes, we'll see. But I think they can steal a game because I like to pay attention to the details a little. I go back to game 2, and we were talking about this off camera. Outman's at bat. I forget the inning it was. It's bases loaded, and he barely misses a 92-mile-per-hour sinker. If he's able to send that, because you got to think about these little details of why they got there. They're 2-0, but how? If he sends that, that's a grand slam. Instead of being down 2 scores, they're up 2 scores. They maybe win the game. And now instead of 0-2, you're talking about 1-1. This is a very dangerous Dodgers team. When they're on, they got hitters that could. We talk about Freddie Freeman. He didn't have the best game, but Freddie Freeman is Freddie Freeman. They got other guys that can hit as well. So you want to make sure that you step on their neck this game, because if you don't, they'll come for you because they could hit this Dodgers team.
I completely agree. I think you need to put them away soon. You cannot let this veteran, seasoned Dodgers team, like you said, Kershaw old, Freddie Freeman. They have guys that have been through the playoffs. You can call them old or you can call them seasoned. But the Diamondbacks don't have as many players in that same realm of seasoned playoffs. However, they have a lot of hungry young guys that are playing so well. Corbin Carroll playing his best baseball right now. Ketel Marte, their 2-star pitchers. I mean, they're firing on all cylinders, but like you said, Madi, they need to put the Dodgers away because that is not a team you want to play around
This is
with.
a do or die. This is their series to lose. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think this also shows that not just for Kershaw himself, but the Dodgers as a whole, their bark is worse than their bite, because last year they were going up against the Padres, and the Padres beat them. And now they've had 5 straight postseason losses since their Game 2 loss against the Padres in last year's series. So I think that, every year we think, all the predictions come in and the commentators are like, it's the Dodgers' year. They're going to win 110, 115 games or some absurd number, and they're going to win the World Series. And I do admit that in the regular season, like, there are times when the Dodgers look unbeatable.
Yeah.
And then come playoff time, it's like someone just like turns off a little switch in all the players' bodies where it's like they turn off the clutch gene or whatever it is, and they just, they struggle. So I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not particularly mad about it because, I think this Diamondbacks team is so exciting to watch. And I think them going on a run is just, it's a sight to behold. And, an 84-win team, losing their last 4 heading into the wild card spot, like literally like flailing their way into the final wild card spot. I think that's, pretty incredible that they're now in this position right now. So I think that the Diamondbacks are going to take it tonight because I think they also recognize, as you guys talked about, the risk of prolonging this.
Yeah.
And it also kind of reminds me of a series in a different sport where we saw Heat Celtics, and that was, we thought that was going to be over in Game 5, and it went to 7.
Yeah.
And, it was crazy. So, when you get the chance to put them away, you put them away. So I think the D-backs are going to win tonight. And if they don't, maybe I am starting to get a little nervous. Maybe Colin was right after all. But we'll see what happens. And so next, Evan, we've got Rangers. The Rangers advancing, sweeping this young Orioles team 3-1. So what are some highlights from that?
Yeah, I mean, the Rangers really flexed their muscles during this sweep. I mean, they showed you that this team has so much firepower. We were talking off air about they had about 5 or 6 starters in the AL All-Star team. I mean, this is a really stacked team, and unlike the Orioles, like I said about the Dodgers, they have veteran presence. They have guys that have been through the playoffs. And like you said, Ben, it seemed like the Orioles not having that hurt them a lot in these games.
Yeah, I got to tell you, this is a young upstart team, and like Gunnar Henderson, like I want like as shortstop, like as a Yankees fan. No offense to the kid, his
Volpe.
name. Yeah, no offense to Anthony Volpe. Like you have time, 21-year-old shortstop. But Gunnar Henderson had a very strong start to 2022. 6'3", 195. He has all the intangibles. Everything's there. And they got swept, Texas Rangers. I think the person that you have to look at, Texas stand up, first of all. The person that you have to look at the most is Bruce Bochy. I think right now he's the best manager in baseball left within the playoffs. He's a 68-year-old old guy. And, baseball is like, baseball goes back. It's America's original game, right? And now you got the analytic guys in the new age taking over, Nate Silver and their baseball analytics. He says bunk all that. Well, you know what Bruce Bochy does? He doesn't look at statistics. He wins baseball games. And to his credit, he's put together a wonderful team. 6 guys. I mean, you tell me this all the time. You told me this twice already. Can you go ahead and 6 guys who were starters on the, what was it?
And the AL All-Star team.
Oh, my goodness. And he just put together a route. I have him going to the World Series. I love everything about this team. Bruce Bochy, you're the guy. And, yeah, hats off. Straight up. Nothing else to say.
Yeah, well, I think hats off to the Rangers for, getting to this point in the same way that we talked about the Liberty, going through all those years. The Rangers, last time they were in an American League Championship Series, that was 2011.
When they won the pennant.
Yeah, and that was the Josh Hamilton era. And he was one of my favorite players growing up. And, you could say that since 2011, they went through some tough times, some
Definitely.
mediocre times. Like some seasons were just kind of blatantly average, like just a mat of like gray paint on the wall where it's like, oh, I'm gonna watch an Orioles game. It's like just like eating like bread with no butter on it or anything. It's just like, you want like something perfectly boring and just vanilla. You just go watch a Rangers game, just back in the mid 2010s or late 2010s, and that would do it for you. But they went through a long stretch of just kind of being in no man's land in the wilderness, and I was wrong about this series. I thought that the Orioles would win this in 4 or 5 games because I thought especially with the Orioles winning over 100 games. I
Right.
thought they
Number
were
one.
just a powerhouse with their bats, with their youth. And, again, credit to Colin, where I give him credit. The Rangers just have more experience. And they have, they have a great lineup as well. As you mentioned, Evan, they had literally like more than 5 guys in the All-Star game. So at the end of the day, it's kind of like, taking someone in a fight, like an upstart, like 15-year-old kid versus like a 25-year-old man. It's like, even if the 15-year-old is like more skilled, you're going to take the 25-year-old guy because, he's just older, he's got more experience.
Yeah.
But what I will say for the Orioles is that, for Yankees fans, I think you guys should just put these, try to get them out of your nightmares. You guys should be fearing, for all Yankees fans out there, the Orioles are going to be here to stay in the AL East. And even though their path to getting to this point was not the same as the Braves, I almost kind of compare the Orioles to the Braves in that both New York teams have to worry about them, in terms of their young core and, the fact that they're going to be a problem for like the next half decade, potentially. And so, I think the Orioles are going to be back, even if, this is rough for them and not what they expected, not what I expected. But they'll definitely be back.
Gunnar Henderson, Shintaro Fujinami, who I don't think gets enough credit, Adley Rutschman, Felix Batiste, they'll be back. They're just young. Give it time. Go ahead.
Adley Rutschman actually only had 1 hit in the 3 games, so there you go. You see a little bit of that youth. Adley Rutschman is not a player you'd expect to have 1 hit. He's a very good player, but also very young, and that's why I think he struggled in this playoff series. However, I think the Rangers were severely underrated coming into this playoff. I think they're up there with the Braves and the Phillies in terms of their lineup and their firepower. And like you said, Madi, a great manager right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they're my favorites going far, the Rangers.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment. I think I could definitely see them in the World Series. And, we'll see what happens in terms of the Astros Twins series, which we're actually going to just talk about right now. The Astros are up 2-1 in the series against the Twins. And I think they're just showing their staying power in the American League. They've been around. They've been a problem since 2016, 2017. Evan, what do you say about this series right now?
Yeah, I agree. You hit it right on the nose. The Astros are a dangerous team in the playoffs. They have been for a long time now. They're actually leading the Minnesota Twins right now in the middle of the 6th inning, 3-1. So looking to take that 3rd game in advance, which I believe they will. I thought they would before the game started. I mean, the Astros just have such a veteran playoff presence. It's hard to even overcome it if you're a really good team. I mean, they have multiple guys who have won multiple rings in recent years. And, I mean, they're just, like I said, the Rangers were stacked. The Astros might be just as stacked. These last teams we're coming to towards this end of this playoff picture look really good. I'm really excited. But I think the Astros are here to stay and shake up some noise like they're doing right now.
America, can you see my Yankee jacket and my Yankee hat? You know what sucks about all this for the Astros? It's not even Jose Altuve killing us anymore. We talked about this. Like, Jose Altuve, I'm thinking about it, like, all-time great second baseman, Jackie Robinson, of course, Robbie Cano, Joe Morgan, the clutch factor. Jose Altuve is like that, but he's declined in some years. He's the longest tenured player with the Houston Astros. Last year was Yordi Alvarez. Air Yordi is what we was getting. Jeremy Pena. Like, this team is, like, perpetually good, and it annoys me. It strikes every nerve within my body. They're going to win this series. It's like something you can't do anything about it, and they're just going to win this series, and I hate it, but good for them. I don't care.
I'll tell you what, this Astros team reminds me of that monster in Greek mythology where you chop off its arm and, like, what is it, like three more grow?
Yeah, oh my
and it feels like the Astros, they're like cockroaches. They just don't die. They don't go away. And, it's quite unfortunate for, people who are hoping for some change up in the American League postseason picture from year to year. But the Astros just keep coming. And, I think they're in control of this series. I had them winning this series, even though the Twins are no slouches by any means. With Correa, in Game 2, in the Twins win, Correa had 3 hits, 3 RBIs. Pablo Lopez, he had 7 strikeouts and 7 innings pitched. and the two teams are playing right now. Last I checked, it was I believe the game was tied at 1-1, but I'm not sure if that's changed.
You're talking.
So it's a 3-1 lead, 3-1 lead for the Astros. So actually, that shows the Astros have taken control of the game, and so this might be it for the series tonight. And that's about what I predicted. It's just nothing against the Twins. It's that the Astros are that good, and they're just at this point they're kind of like just a mainstay in MLB postseason. It's like you look at the teams in MLB postseason each year, guaranteed Astros are going to be on.
I mean, we all pick our brackets, right? We're all like out of that. We're like Philly, maybe Atlanta. And then everybody knows it's Houston. They're like that, and it's annoying.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say. Hats off to them. Perpetually good.
Yeah.
Well-run organization.
Yeah.
Cheaters.
Yeah. I mean, despite their checkered history, shall we say, I would say that Astros deserve credit in the same way that Liberty do, and the Orioles do, and all these well-built teams deserve credit for building their organization in the right way. It starts from the top down, and as you see, when you have dysfunctional ownership, that trickles down like poison right down to the players. And as a New York Knicks fan, I can attest to that. I've seen it in firsthand, with the bags over our heads, seeing what poor ownership looks like. So props to the Astros, even if maybe there's a little asterisk right next to some of their success. Yeah. But that's another debate for another time. Evan, I want you to tell us about this Braves-Phillies series. The two teams are playing right now.
It ended. I'm so sorry to cut you off. It ended. Philadelphia 10-2.
10-2 for Philadelphia. So, Evan, what do you make of this?
I did not expect this. The Braves are a superpower. They were all year. Not that the Phillies aren't, but, I mean, the Red October, like the way we're talking about the Astros, I feel like is starting to come into the Phillies also as well, where you see the Phillies in a playoff bracket and they're a wild card team playing a 1 seed, and you take the 1 seed and then you're like, I might have to take the Phillies. They are so good in the postseason. Bryce Harper is one of the best postseason players I've ever seen. I know he hit a home run today.
Amen to that.
Huge home run. I mean, they're firing on all cylinders. They're pitching well. They're hitting well. And the Braves are in a lot of trouble right now. I do not want to play the Red October Phillies in an elimination game, and I'm sure they don't either.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Philadelphia, I've loved them from the beginning. I mean, these were really the two teams that we expected. These were the two guys, Atlanta and Philly. Which one do we like? I think one day Ronald Acuna is going to be like, I think one day he's going to be the best player in the world. If he isn't already, I don't know what the general consensus is. But Ronald Acuna, I love him. But Bryce Harper, as of right now, again, one of the best postseason players I've ever seen in my lifetime watching baseball. 2-10 was a rout. By the last time I checked it, it was like 6. Like they hit a double. Like this Philly team is firing on all cylinders. Baseball's mainly about can you hit at the right time. And for the past couple of years, Philadelphia has been able to hit at the right time. Also not ecstatic to say that because, again, I'm a New Yorker and Philly fans hate New Yorkers. But, again, hats off to them. They've been able to hit at the right time.
Yeah, and, guys, I just want to add a little update. The Twins homered, so it's now 3-2 with the Astros leading by 1.
Come on.
It is
Come
the
on,
bottom of the 6th.
Dick Correa hit it.
So I'm not sure who scored or how it happened.
I just heard lose IFB. It wasn't Correa.
Yeah, it was not. It was not Correa. I believe it was. Yes, Julian.
Okay.
Julian. Yes. So, that's the Twins could still be in this. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I think this surprised me also. I didn't expect this Phillies Braves series to be so lopsided. And Colin, again, you were right. You were right about this. And I feel like I'm tortured every time I'm saying this. And the Phillies are they're scary. I thought the Braves are scary, but the Phillies are scarier.
Yeah.
And Bryce Harper, there's been some talk over the years of Bryce Harper being overrated, but it's like, look at his record in the postseason. Look at what he's doing right now. 30 years old. He's still got plenty of good years left. Remember, he signed that massive contract with Philly back in 2019. So he's going to be there for the long haul, or at least as long as they're in a good spot, in terms of their direction as an organization. But I think that the Phillies, with their pitching with their lineup. I mean, Zach Wheeler is great. I mean, I miss him on the Mets. And, I'm surprised. I'm shocked, honestly. So I will say I'm shocked. And, I think the Braves will still be a factor in the NL East for years to come. And so will the Phillies. So that's evidence, for Mets fans and for Steve Cohen. You've got to make some moves to get the Mets in competition with.
Don't worry about Steve Cohen. Really, really like him as an owner. He's willing to spend big money. He gets his guys paid. He'll make the big move if he has. He's a needle mover. Don't worry.
Well, that'll about do it for MLB headlines. Thank you, Evan. And when we come back, we're going to talk some NBA preseason season predictions, like where will the Knicks finish in the East? What about the Nets? Looking at Wemby's debut with the Spurs, some finals matchup predictions, a bunch of fun stuff. So we'll be right back.
Ryan Gregory here, joined with Michael Calamari and Andrew Galata, three of your hosts for Nosebleeds, WFUV's only baseball podcast.
Tune in every week as we recap the latest from the Bronx and Queens, as well as news from around the MLB.
You can listen to Nosebleeds on Apple, Spotify, WFUVsports.org, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Take a trip around the bases all season long with the Nosebleeds podcast on WFUV Sports.
And we are back here on WFUV Sports Nightly edition of One on One. I'm with my host, Madi Dembele, aka Madi the Maestro, and Evan Harkin, but not Evan Neal. Don't get it twisted. And so we're going to be talking some NBA preseason slash season predictions. First off, everyone's talking about how are the Knicks going to be this year? How are they going to end up in the Eastern Conference? There's a new report from the New York Post that has NBA general managers picking Knicks to finish 5th in the Eastern Conference. Personally, I think that's a bit too low. I think obviously the Celtics are they're a mainstay. The Bucks second. I think they could be first. Even though I did semi-sarcastically say the Knicks run the East, but I will give the Bucks credit when it is due. But followed by the Cavaliers and 76ers. I think the Knicks are arguably better than those two teams, especially the Cavaliers, as we beat them in the first round last year. And I think that that's simply too low for this season's prediction. What do you guys think?
I think if anything, it's a slot too low. I do agree with you. I think they're better than the Cavaliers. Not only in the postseason last year, in the regular season, they dominated the Cavaliers as well. They had the Cavaliers number all year last year. Definitely a matchup-wise better team. I think it's going to be close. I think that 4 or 5 spot, it sounds good to me. I don't think they'll be better than Philly, just with the power of Joel Embiid and James Harden, just that star power. I don't think that their depth is going to overcome the star power of Philly. I don't think they're coming near the Celtics and Bucks, but I would be very happy if the Knicks could finish above the Cavaliers. I think that's a good goal for the Knicks this year.
What I will say first about the Knicks is, first of all, health. For a long time, James Dolan has been scaring everybody away, and you guys put together a very competitive team. I'd say that you guys could even make the Eastern Conference Finals, depending, how the Heat series went, how it went. But if you play better, you make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. Jalen Brunson's balling, Julius Randle's balling. I think 5th sounds about right. Milwaukee, Boston, Philadelphia still with that star power. Cleveland's gonna make some noise. And then Miami's a mainstay. Even if they're not like in the top, even if they finish 7th, they'll always come out the woodwork. But I'm very proud of what I've seen from this Knicks team. I've heard reports that they could get Joel Embiid. They actually have the assets for once in their life to do it. But yeah, even if they don't, Jalen Brunson, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett, we're just waiting for him to take the step. Maybe this year's his year. Quentin Grimes is great. Emmanuel Quickley's a spark plug off the bench. Tom Thibodeau, he likes to run his starters into the ground, play them 40 minutes, but still excellent head coach. I'm very proud of what I've seen from this Knicks team. I think they could be competitive, and more than anything, they remind me of these Knicks teams of the 90s, where we didn't win, but the city's pumped, and the city could be proud of something. So, New York, orange and blue skies, stand up.
Absolutely. And one other interesting thing about this report from the New York Post is that GMs had Coach Tibbs. He was finishing tied for second most votes with Taylor Jenkins of the Grizzlies as the coach with the best defensive schemes. I think that's pretty accurate. And I think, as you said, that's the Knicks' character over the years, going back to the 90s, especially in the 90s when that was ultra physical and the rules are totally different. And so, I think this year, the Knicks can absolutely run with all these teams. And, even though they lost in 6 games to Miami last year, I still think if they beat Miami, I think the way the Celtics played against Miami, the Knicks could have beat the Celtics if the Celtics played that way against the Knicks. And that's why I say that the East is still wide open, because even with this Bucks trade, I highlighted on Saturday's show that, Dame struggles with defense, and he's on the wrong side of 30. And Giannis, I remember back in 2015, 2016, when Giannis really started breaking out of his shell, and people were saying, just wait till he gets a jump shot. He's going to be like ultra athletic Kevin Durant, and better than LeBron. He's just a freak of nature, and he is a freak of nature still in his own right, absolutely. But I think that Giannis's weakness is, he's not a great free throw shooter, and he's not a great shooter in general. He just can't make threes, which is, in today's game, that hurts you. It's just a fact of life. And so I think teams are going to find a way to exploit that, especially the Knicks, and I think that in those games against the Bucks, I think the Knicks are they're going to push Lillard around, and try to push his buttons a little bit, because this is a physical team. And so, I think this is a wide open conference. Not that it's a bad conference. It's not. It's a conference with plenty of teams that have solid talent. Just the fact that an 8th seed last season made it to the finals, that's not a testament to the East being bad. That's a testament to it being full of evenly competitive teams and not completely lopsided like it was in the LeBron era, where it would just be every year, it'd be like, who you got making the finals in the East? LeBron. It's like, it's like the sun's going to shine every morning. It's just like a given. But ever since LeBron has left the East, the parity has changed. And I think that's a great thing for the NBA and for the Eastern Conference, because before LeBron, the last time the East was really taken seriously was during the Jordan days. And now I think we're kind of getting back into that era of, okay, the East isn't a joke, because it used to be thought of as a joke. And so things are changing. And so another team in the East, people are wondering how the Nets are going to do this season. One report from New York Post has the Nets finishing 19th. And I actually think that's fairly accurate. I think, it's kind of like you're not sure where to place them, because I think the Nets have, even though they basically gotten rid of everyone that they tried to get in that whole super team frenzy going back to 2021, that 2019 through 21 era, where they had KD, Kyrie, James Harden, all those guys are gone. And so they have a clean slate, but it's not a bad clean slate. They're not tanking. And they're I think they're going to be fairly competitive, but they could also not be that great. So what do you guys think about the Nets this year?
I think it depends a lot on the return of Ben Simmons. I know, Madi, me and you were talking about this before. If he can be what he was his first couple years in Philly, where he's not timid, He's, head down Ben Simmons, athletic freak Ben Simmons can guard anyone, then this team will be better than 19, I think. I mean, Bridges was playing great last year, especially on the Nets. He seems to love the type of game that they play. It seems to work a lot for him. And they, like you said, they kind of have a little bit of what the Knicks have with their depth. They don't have 2 stars and no bench. They have a lot of good players throughout their roster, which I think can benefit them in the long run. I mean, let's say, obviously, I hope this doesn't happen, but let's say Giannis gets hurt, then the Bucks aren't that good. If Julius Randle got hurt on the Knicks or if Mikal Bridges got hurt on the Nets, they would still be around as good as they are because they have so much depth and they have guys that could step in. So I think that'll be huge for them, but biggest piece, Ben Simmons has got to be Ben Simmons.
Yeah, it's got to be Ben Simmons, and I think you pointed this out. You mentioned the 2019 Nets. What this represents more than anything, getting rid of those guys, KD, Harden, and Kyrie, is like you get a chance to start over, but not from the bottom. You're still going to be at least a play-in team. Like, this reminds me of the 2019 Nets. Like, some iteration of that. Obviously, Mikal Bridges and D'Angelo Russell, 2 different iterations of 2 different players, but you have a chance to start over and not from the bottom. You're still going to be competitive, and this Brooklyn Nets team is going to be fun as heck. I mean, Brooklyn Bridges is surreal. Like, he's dropping 40 towards the end of the year when I thought he was just a 3-and-D guy in Phoenix. He's capable of going off the dribble. And then you got Dorian Finney-Smith you stole from Dallas, and you got Nick Claxton is taking a step off, a very good defender. Like, you got guys that could play, and they're going to be able to build a contender from here the right way, because that's always been Brooklyn's problem. They tried to make a splash in 2013, trading away essentially Jason Tatum and Brown for old man KG and Paul Pierce. They tried it again with KD, Kyrie, and then the personalities. This is your third chance to make it right and do it right and build a contender. Brooklyn's in a good spot right now.
Absolutely. And I think that this team actually reminds me of the pre-KD and Kyrie Nets in 2019, 18-19 season, where they had D'Angelo Russell.
Yeah.
They had, a whole roster of just like solid players. And I'm pretty sure the Nets were like the 5th or 6th seed that year, maybe the 4th seed even.
Played Philly in the first round.
Yeah. And they lost, but I think they were just a solid overall team that year, and they were fun to watch. I remember that team. And, unfortunately, when you're looking to make a super team, a lot of times you just got to clean the house and get rid of those guys just to free cap space or make trades to free cap space. And so, basically, I think they're kind of in a similar position to where they were in that season. And so what I would say to the Nets, if I'm the Nets GM, I would be cautious of making a big splash.
Yeah.
Because we've seen how this stuff has ended. It's like, fool me once, fool me twice. It's like the expression. And so I think at this point, from the Nets' experiences with trying to get aging superstars, they should just, not go after the shiny, player who's, looks good and the juicy option. Oh, we want to trade for him, and just stay the course and, rebuild the right way. And some super teams work, some artificially constructed super teams work, but that's not a guarantee. And I would say the same thing for the Knicks. Just, if RJ plays well, I would say the same thing for the Knicks. But if he, really is still not developing and is, it's going to be, I think, his 5th year now, maybe the Knicks got to think about making a move for Embiid or something like that. But I would be cautious of doing that at the same time.
What really sucks really quickly about RJ Barrett is when he got drafted, I thought he could be like the point forward model. Like, even though he wasn't averaging that many assists, because that goes into the point forward frame. Like, he was averaging like 2-3 assists a game. He was making passes that were like, oh my God, this kid has vision. This kid could get to the basket anytime he wants. He finished really well around the basket. And it hasn't turned out that way. He's had his ups and downs. So RJ Barrett's going to be the real X factor for the Knicks, as he is season in, season out for like the 3rd straight year. If he isn't able to do it, no worries, Knicks. You guys got the assets to go swing for a big trade. I think they're in a much better position than, say, even the Brooklyn Nets, as we just talked about, to go get that big piece for the first time in my life with the Knicks. So, yeah, I think both of these teams are in a really healthy spot and nothing to complain.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what, guys. We have a caller on the line who wants to discuss this with us. We've got Dan from Long Island, Mr. Bartels himself. He's on the line. Dan, what's up? What's going on?
Ben, how you doing? Evan, Madi, love the talks that you guys are having, especially about the Knicks and the Nets. I'm going to touch personally on the Knicks. Listen, last year, right, like 5th seed. Personally, I think we can improve on that. I think, there's teams up there that finished ahead of us in the Cavs and 76ers, and personally, I think we could maybe be that 3 seed this year. If that's a hot take or not, I don't know. But as you talked about R.J. Barrett, of course, he's big X factor. To me, of course, RJ, but Julius, too. He has to play well. He has to continue to, keep being that all-star caliber player. And I'm excited for the Villanova Knicks. What are we going to see, the chemistry out of that? So, listen, I think the sky's looking up for the Knicks more than the Nets, but really excited for this year. And I think we could get that 3 seed behind the Bucks and the Celtics. I want to hear you guys have to say, though.
I totally agree with you, Dan. I would even go a step further and say maybe the Celtics aren't going to be as good as everyone thinks they are. I mean, we saw them struggle against the Heat. The Knicks, I think, beat them more times than they lost in the regular season last year. They seem to have their number. In a straight-up matchup, they seem to have their number every time. I don't know. I agree with you, Dan. I think that R.J. Barrett definitely needs to step up. He needs to start making more threes and becoming more of a perimeter guy because the Knicks are too much in the paint right now. We don't have a sharpshooter. I think RJ definitely needs to step up and be able to knock down shots from the outside, which he has been trying to do more and more, and I give him credit. He's become a better shooter every year. So if that keeps on pace and RJ Barrett can be an actual three-point threat, you can keep Brunson and Randall healthy, which is a big thing you got to do in this Tom Thibodeau.
Yeah.
They got hurt last year because they're going to play all these games. They have to stay healthy. I think maybe they should even use them a little bit less than they did last year, especially with this more depth. But I'm right there with you, Dan. I think they can overachieve.
Yeah, especially having Emmanuel quickly coming off the bench, too, like having that spark plug, if RJ doesn't shoot well, okay,
right.
Run small ball and, see what happens there. And Quentin Grimes in the playoffs last year, hustling for every rebound, if we can get that night in and night out at the Garden, packed house, sky's the limit for this team. I really do feel that. But thanks, guys, for taking my call, and great show.
Thank you, Dan. All right, that was Dan Bartels, a fellow WFUV sports member. And thank you for calling in, Dan. And so we just want to quickly touch on Wemby's debut with the Spurs. Now, it is preseason, but in his first game against OKC, your team,
Yes.
Madi, he balled out. 19-year-old. He scored 20 points in 19 minutes. He had 5 rebounds and 2 steals. And he went 8 for 13 from the field, including 2 for 5 from behind the arc. What do you say to that?
You know what? It's so satisfying to see a number 1 overall pick actually live up. You think of the long history of number 1 overall picks who haven't. It's refreshing. Victor Wembanyama, I was watching the whole game because, again, Chet Holmgren was on the court. I've been waiting all year for him. Victor Wembanyama looked like a wing. He's getting dribble handoffs from the wing going into the middle. Did you guys see that acrobatic layup? He takes 2 dribbles to the outside, pounds it, gives himself enough time to pick up, spin move. He sees Chet Holmgren and then lays it softly.
Like Kyrie.
So beautiful for a big man. And again, I know there's concerns about his height and weight and that ratio. He's gained 15 pounds since he's been in San Antonio. But he's just so special. When you see a guy with that talent, you can't teach that size. You can't teach that talent. Victor Wembanyama is going to be good. My only concern that I saw from him was the offensive fouls. I think he's a bit clumsy, just a little bit too clumsy. When he's the weak side defender, I noticed that he likes to swipe really, really aggressively at the ball handler whenever they're penetrating middle. But other than that, other than the offensive fouls, I love Victor Wembanyama. And Chet Holmgren, he's getting it at the wing. He's turning the corner, creating contact, finishing at the rim. He's stroking in from 3. Actually had a better statistical night than Victor Wembanyama. 21-9, I want to say, was the stat score for him. But he also balled out. Those two are going to have battles for years. I've heard somebody say Bird and Magic. I don't know to that level. But for the next 10 years, it's going to be fun.
Yeah, the word I would use is scary to define both of their performances. I was watching and I was like, holy cow, I've never seen something like this. Like you were saying, the and one, he was having a bunch of plays that I didn't see him do anything like in the Summer League. Wow. That's my biggest thing is how much better he seems since the Summer League. If you guys remember, his first Summer League game was terrible. Everyone made fun of him, called him a bust. His second Summer League game, he was perfectly fine. But even from that second Summer League game and then on, he looks even better in the preseason, which I think should be obvious because we forget sometimes he's 19 years old. 19-year-old is so much different body-wise, male, mentally wise than someone in their prime, a 24-year-old NBA player that you see, the average guy. I think the weight's going to be fine. I mean, he's going to add weight as he gets older.
Yeah.
That's just how Chet's been doing it. We've been seeing Chet gain weight. Chet looked really good too, and it almost seemed like alien-like to watch these two guys
Oh
who
my God.
maybe they're Kevin Durant-like but taller, and Wembanyama seemed almost more athletic. I don't think Kevin Durant can do that finish that he was doing. I'm really excited to see what they bring this year.
Well, I'll tell you what. I like what I see. Well, scratch that. I love what I see. It's like watching Picasso on television. But at the same time, he's 7'3", and that's concerning to me.
Yeah.
Just the height. I think you're just really prone to injuries when you're that tall, and you can also, unfortunately, you can have heart issues. You can have other health problems. So that's what I'm worried about. But other than that, it's almost like it's too good to be true.
Right.
In terms of his talent, like the name that they gave Porzingis when he was in his first season, a unicorn. This guy is an actual unicorn. And the only concern I have is injuries and the complications that come with his height. But maybe he'll defy the odds and he'll stay fairly healthy for his whole career. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to wrap that up, basically, and we're going to head to a break. And next up, when we come back, we're going to talk New York Jets and then later on New York Giants, and we're going to get really angry and voice our frustrations. It's going to be like a therapy session with Dr. Oppenheimer. So anyway, that's what's on the slate next, and we will be right back on WFUV Sports.
Hey everyone, I'm Will Grant.
And I'm Chris Persianen.
And we're two of the hosts for WFUV's very own basketball podcast, Pick and Pod.
Tune in weekly for updates and our takes on the latest around the NBA, as well as exclusive insight from our very own Knicks and Nets beat reporters.
We'll have you covered on everything from all of the NBA's latest drama we know and love,
to debating all year long which team will get to lift that golden Larry O'Brien in June.
So don't miss a beat from the hardwood on WFUV's Pick and Pod.
And we're back here on the nightly edition of One on One on WFUV Sports. I'm Ben Oppenheimer with my co-host Madi Dembele and Evan Harkin. And you could say that New York football fans are somewhat of a masochist type. We really just love pain, and we love being in pain, and we get gratification from being in pain. And, usually the pain just never ends, and it just keeps going and going, and, you're just crying out for help. And usually no help comes, especially when you're looking at the Jets and Giants season so far. But is there a ray of hope with the Jets being back on track potentially after their win in Denver? What do you guys think?
Are you ready for this one? No, absolutely not. You see, this is my main point. I was on the show not too long ago, and we talked about it. This is usually what happens when you bring in a new quarterback and Nathaniel Hackett to a good defense. Just ask the Denver Broncos of last year. What was their concession plan at quarterback after Aaron Rodgers? Like, I know he's Aaron freaking Rodgers. I mean, MVP, Super Bowl champion, one of the first talents of the thrower of the football that you see. But after him, what was after the 39-year-old, 40-year-old guy? He tore his Achilles. He's done. Who do you have? Zach Wilson. What I really think this is it's a testament to the Jets' lack of ability to prepare. Because Zach Wilson, they're trying to hype. This kid is somebody that they drafted number 2 overall, if I'm not mistaken, and he looked fantastic at BYU. He's throwing across. He looks like a little Mahomes. He's throwing across his body. He's extending plays. But that's much to a credit to BYU's time at BYU's offensive line at the time. Mina Kimes pointed that out. He's not good. I'm sorry. I think this was really supposed to be his bridge year. I think he was supposed to sit behind a guy, whether that was Derek Carr was talked about coming to the Jets, whether it was Aaron Rodgers or whoever it was, he was supposed to sit back for a year and just learn and then take over this team. He had a good game against the Chiefs, but then he did not have a good game recently against the Denver Broncos, did enough for them to win, and now he's going to play an Eagles defense 5-0 and one of the deepest rosters in all of football. Zach Wilson can't get it done. On the season, 911 yards, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, QBR 37.6. That's 26 in the NFL. The kid's not good. I mean, he's only 24 years of age. You draft him second overall. You got to roll with him.
Yeah, although I loved seeing the Jets beat the Broncos, I thought that was cool, especially from what Sean Payton was saying. It was cool to see Adam Gase go up after the game. He actually told him stay humble when they shook each other's hands. But besides that, more towards the Zach Wilson point, I agree with you completely, Madi. I mean, this year, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 73 quarterback rating. I mean, we know he's bad. He was a backup quarterback to start the season. I do feel bad for him a little bit. He was supposed to sit back. He wasn't meant to come in, and, we saw last year what happens when you give him the keys to the city, when you make him the starting quarterback. Yeah. I don't think he even dare say it has a future in the NFL. It seems like he has the arm talent. We saw that against the Chiefs. He was airing the ball out. A lot of them were dangerous throws. They really could have gone either way. But I think he needs to do that a little bit more to shine a little bit more. I think he needs to be, although he has more interceptions than touchdowns already, he seems to check the ball down a lot. He doesn't like throwing downfield, which is obvious because of the nerves that have set in from the backlash he received from Jets fans, rightfully so. But the defense is good enough for him to make mistakes. I think he has to go out there and try to play his best football. I think the defense can pick that up. And, I mean, I don't think they're back after beating the Broncos. It's cool to say you're better than the Broncos. I wish I could say that as a Giants fan, but I can't. But really, Breece Hall and the defense beat the Broncos. Zach Wilson threw for 199 and a pick, no touchdowns.
Which honestly, not even to cut you off, that's not a bad thing. Like, being a game manager gets such a bad rap. Right. You want to know how good being a game manager is? Jimmy Garoppolo made it to the Super Bowl and was one throw away from winning it. One away from beating Patrick freaking Mahomes. Like, being a game manager is not bad. So that's just what I have to say.
I don't even think he's definitely not a game manager, though, because of all the mistakes he makes. I mean, he doesn't have the mental aspect you need to be an elite quarterback. He might have the physical aspects. We've seen flashes of it. We've never really seen a full game of it. I guess you could say the Chiefs game, there were a lot of 50-50 plays in that game. It was somewhat of a fluke, but if I'm the Jets, I'm praying Aaron Rodgers comes back from that Achilles injury if we want a shot on this season.
40-year-old, let's bet on a 40-year-old coming back from an Achilles tear. And what sucks is that this Jets defense is one of the best in football. Quinn Williams,
it's amazing.
Sauce Gardner in his second year. But the thing is, football is a game you got to complement each other. It's complementary football. Your offense got to put up points, and your defense has to lock up. If your defense is just locking up, guess what? They're on the field all the time because your offense is quickest 3 and outs ever. So your defense is gassed, and guys are like, Zach Wilson's not that guy. Try Tim Boyle. You just signed Trevor Siemian. Try something. This kid is clearly in over his head.
Well, I'll tell you what. Even though we New Yorkers are very accustomed to fear and pain, if I'm a Jets fan, if I'm part of the Jets organization right now, I'm curled up in a ball, but not in a bad way. I'm in my happy place. I'm overdosing on hopium right now. I call it hopium. That's another Benfamism. And so the Jets are 2-3. They could be worse. They could be the Patriots. No. And it's funny how things have changed. Now the Patriots, they used to be the scary team in the AFC East, and look how times have changed. And the Dolphins are leading in the division. That's kind of funny. But look, the Jets are 2-3. They had a nice win in Denver, 31-21. And I know you guys said that Z didn't have a good game, but to me, I feel like if you win the game, you had a good game as a QB. You did your job. And so, the Jets are 2-3 right now, and I think they should actually be 3-3 because I think that Chiefs game was just, very suspicious, to say the least. And so they had a great win against Buffalo.
It did.
In overtime. That was electric. The Cowboys game was rough for them. Patriots game was also, I think they could have won that. But they kept up with a Super Bowl team, and they just beat the Broncos. The Eagles are going to be a challenge, but I think Z is up to the challenge, and this is good. This is good development for him. This is an opportunity for him to say, I'm taking what I learned from Aaron Rodgers over the summer, and I'm implementing it into the game, and maybe they pull off an upset. They probably don't. But I think the Jets, they're in a position that's not as bad as you guys think. They could be the Giants. So we're going to talk about that. What do you think of the Giants right now, Evan?
I
want to
think
hear this.
The Giants are the worst team in football right now. I don't think it's even close. I mean, some people want to put the Panthers down there. At least the Panthers have somewhat of a functioning offensive line. I mean, there was a play where Azudu, the backup left tackle for Andrew Thomas, the Giants were in the red zone last week, and he had 2 back-to-back false starts and then a hold. Just single-handedly, a left tackle costed the Giants the entire drive. They ended up having to punt. They're not good at anything. I mean, they're not good at defense. The whole thing, I don't understand the play calling. I mean, we want to get at Daniel Jones. He deserves a little bit of it. He's not playing near the level he was playing at the end of last year, where we were like, let's sign this guy to $40 million. Or the playoff game, where he played really good. Saquon Barkley's hurting the Giants a lot being out, but Saquon Barkley gets hurt. That's a thing that we know happens. This isn't something new. Maybe get a better backup running back. I don't know. We need lots of more depth on the O-line. And I don't think Daniel Jones should come back with the O-line that they have right now because it's dangerous for him. I mean, he got sacked 11 times in the last game or 2 games ago, and then even more the last game. And on the hit where he leaves, he doesn't even – it's not like he tweaks his ankle or he throws his arm out or something. He just gets hit so hard so many times that he has to leave the game. And that's a tough quarterback. Daniel Jones is one of the toughest quarterbacks in the league, and he was taken out of the game just from being beat up so bad. It's honestly unsafe to put him back there behind the O-line, and the Giants really need to figure something out to not be seen as a laughingstock of the NFL this season.
Last one-on-one show, I said this. I said the ghost of David Gettleman is still lingering around the Giants organization because, I mean, from top to first, it's like you don't pay Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley has been the Giants' offense for years, the greatest running back prospect of all time. Nobody has ever – like, people said he was Barry Sanders with an extra 30 pounds. He's that good. He could pass catch the whole thing, one of the most talented backs in football. He was the only reason why their head was somewhat above water for the last how many years?
Yes.
Offensive line's been bad. You try to supplementary that. Evan Neal, I mean, oh, my God. He's so 6'8", 300-pound sack of nothing as of right now. And then the comment that he just gave out, how dare you criticize me? Yeah, we could criticize you. Sports. We're the fans. We want to see production. We thought you were going to secure the other side because Andrew Thomas is balling out, as he always has. But Evan Neal's not pulling his part. Kayvon Thibodeau also deserves a lot of blame.
Right.
I thought he would be one of the premier edge rushers, right? If I'm not mistaken, edge rushers, linebackers, whatever he was. I thought he could be like Micah Parsons. Boy, was I wrong. I don't even want to talk about Kayvon Thibodeau. And this Giants team top to bottom, Daniel Jones, as you said, a tough quarterback. Like, I see him like almost as like a lower iteration of like Josh Allen almost. Like down the field, he's decent. And he'll run into linebackers. Like when he takes off, he'll run into linebackers. Ran into Shaq Leonard once upon a time. But he gets hit so often. This offensive line can't block, and the receivers can't. And then Saquon's out, and then it's just one thing after another after another. This Giants team last year, I want to say they were competitive. They're far from that now. They look like the worst team in football, 1-4, and it's only downhill from here. So that's that.
Hot stat about the Giants and their offense, they average 11 points a game, and that's with a 31-point second half against the Cardinals. You take that out, they average 6 points a game. That is abysmal. That doesn't belong in the NFL.
I don't even understand what's going on with the receiving core. Isaiah Hodgins, Jalen Hyatt hasn't been productive.
Oh, yeah.
Nothing's been rolling there. Nothing in the backfield. Like,
the play calling worries me a lot, too. I mean, they are ineffective plays. We're running the ball on 2nd and 18, like we're going to catch someone off guard with Matt Breida. That's like the Giants' MO is having bad offensive play calling, and they still do. Last year it was better. Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka did well last year. I don't understand where the gap between their play calling and coaching from last year to this year fell apart. I mean, they said that Kafka was calling the plays until the second half of the Cardinals games where Daboll said, I'm taking over the play calling, and then went out and scored 31 points and a half and didn't have a drive without a touchdown and won.
Oh my God.
So why is Daboll not – and we've never heard of this story since. We don't know who's calling the plays now. I'm assuming it's Mike Kafka. That's his job. But why doesn't Daboll take it back if it's that poor, if it's the worst offense in the league? There's so many questions. I don't think they're going to answer them this year. We are in for a long season as Giants
I was
fans.
very excited for the Giants, right? Because there was a period of time you guys were paying Kenny Galladay $72 million, barely playing. It seemed like you guys got it right. Like you draft Jalen Hyatt, you got other guys. Saquon Barkley, I assumed was going to get his money. Daniel Jones, I was never on as low as other people were on him. He got his money. He's okay. He'll get the job done. And I thought this defense was going to be way better than it was.
Where's Dexter Lawrence?
Where
is he?
Where's Dexter Lawrence?
You pay him, and there he goes?
It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where Dexter Lawrence is?
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Do you know where you're Dexter Lawrence? It's ridiculous. This Giants team can't get anything done. I think the season's a wash at this point, 1-4. And the thing you said about Daboll, it's the same thing that almost happened with like Joe Judge. Like you see when he first comes, like they're fighting every week. They're losing, but they're fighting. And then the completely next season, they have nothing. No juice at all. I have nothing to say about the Giants. Just scrap the season, prepare for next. I don't know.
Caleb Williams.
Well, at this point,
Let's do it.
I say, just blow it all up, and you might as well hire Tom Coughlin just to spice things up. And there's so much, just terribleness and drama about this team. I mean, going back to Evan Neal's, feud with the fans. I'll tell you what, as a Giants fan, Mr. Neal, the way you're playing right now, you are 6'8".
Atrocious.
You're a 6'8" mass of dead energy, and I mean that's just the truth.
It's fair.
And so,
It's fair.
it's talk about Z playing badly. It's like Daniel Jones makes Z look like Tom Brady in his prime right now. Maybe not exactly, but I'm just going to call Daniel Jones J from now on. It'll just be J and Z like Men in Black, where they just do the one-letter names. But yeah, it's a train wreck. It's a dumpster fire. And the Giants organization, I feel that their direction has been, they're an example of a team that hasn't built correctly. I feel like they've been meandering ever since their 2011 Super Bowl. I feel like they've just been chasing that feeling, that lightning in a bottle ever since. I mean, they made the playoffs in 2016. And then I believe they made the playoffs. What year was it again? It was 2020.
Last year.
Yeah, last year. Yeah.
Won a playoff game last year.
Yeah, so it was 2016.
Beat the Vikings last year.
2016 and 2022. So usually when you're trying to build success as an organization, you want, a string of playoff appearances and victories, and it feels like the Giants, their direction, they're just kind of, they don't even know where they're going. They're kind of, I remember back in the 2019 season when Eli Manning was still QB, and they were like, we're not sure if we should put Daniel Jones out there. And this is back when, we had hope for him as a quarterback. And I was thinking like, Eli Manning is like, he's like a grandpa, just like put him away. Yeah. And Daniel Jones, just let him play. And they did not. It was like, I remember, my memory is kind of faded from that season, but from what I do remember, Daniel Jones did not get a lot of starts, I don't think.
No.
And so it's just decisions like that are just poor planning from the front office. And I think this whole season is because of poor planning, but also some injuries.
You hit the nail on the head with the injuries. NFL Week 6 injury report for the Giants just came out. Can I read this to you? Daniel Jones has a neck injury. Michael McFadden, ankle. Azeez Ojulari, which sucks because when he plays, he's good. Ankle injury. Matt Purr, who I thought should be the starting right tackle. You shift over, as we talked about, if Evan Neal to guard. Shoulder. Wan'Dale Robinson, knee. John Michael Schmidt, shoulder. Andrew Thomas, the best offensive lineman that you have. Baller since he's been drafted. Same draft as Tristan Wirfs, who won the Super Bowl. Hamstring.
And Saquon, right?
And Saquon.
Yeah.
Darren Waller has a groin injury. He was supposed to come in and be like the guy. Like nothing's working for the Giants. It's just like nothing. You get the guys and then just nothing works.
Well, before last Saturday's one-on-one, I had my roommate tell me as I was preparing for the show, he said, the Giants are a Saquon injury away from being the worst team in the league. And now, here they are with the Saquon injury. They're pretty much the worst team in the league. So, it is what it is, and as New York fans, we know we'll get through it. We'll just we'll cope, and even though I really don't have a lot of optimism for this organization in the same way that I do for other sports teams and other sports like the Mets or the Knicks, I feel like the Giants just don't even know what direction they're going in, and that's the worst thing when you don't know if you're trying to compete or if you're trying to tank. Or even if you're just trying to stay competitive, I feel like the Giants are like trying to do all three of those at once. And that's what it's getting them right now. They're in this position, in addition with the injuries, which have been extremely unlucky. But yeah, it's just a depressing time for New York football fans. And hopefully better times will come eventually, but not right now. And that's going to about do it for tonight. I am your host, Ben Oppenheimer. I am with Madi Dembele, Madi the Maestro, they call him.
Thank you.
And Evan Harkin, not Evan Neal.
Not.
And we are produced by Lou Orlando, the guy in the chair, and video produced by Julian Moss, our sports director, our student manager, excuse me. And of course, none of this could have been possible without the man pulling the strings behind the scenes, Bobby Chaffardini. Thank you all for listening. Have a good night, everyone. Signing off.